Hello, welcome back to RC Video Reviews. Tonight I'm going to show you how to turn your OpenTx radio into a black box data recorder. Have you ever been flying at the field and all of a sudden the plane just becomes non-responsive and you hear somebody just yell out, "Oh, it's not responding," and then you hear the inevitable thump? Tonight I'm going to show you how to use your OpenTx platform as a black box data recorder to get some information if things start going south. This isn't going to cover every single failure possibility. What this will do though is allow you to create actions based on certain triggers the radio can monitor automatically. Namely, I'm thinking of RSSI. A lot of cases where a plane goes down, if it's not a control input problem by the pilot, it's often attributed to a radio failure. I think everyone that's been flying for any period of time knows that. So what I'm going to show you how to do tonight is to have your radio start taking actions when the radio conditions between your transmitter and the receiver are not happy. I have a couple of announcements before I get into the material. The first one is that I'm running that Cacalop battery discharger giveaway right now, so make sure you put an entry in order to be eligible for that. I also contacted Cacalop and asked them if they'd be willing to offer a discount code for people who want to just purchase one outright, and they said that they would offer a 10% code. That code will be in the description of this video, and it's also in the giveaway video. So if you just want to buy one outright, take advantage of that code. It's going to be good for about a month. Another thing I want to point out is that we are about to turn the corner on 3,000 subscribers. So I just want to welcome all of our new subscribers over the past couple of months. The channel's really shown some strong growth, which is great. If you're a returning visitor but not a subscriber, I don't know what you're waiting for. I'd really appreciate it if you just hit the button and hit the notification bell so you know when new content hits the channel. That'd be great. And the last thing I'd like to say before I get into the content is thank you to channel supporters. There are a number of you out there who make contributions to the RC Video Reviews website and through other means. So I just wanted to take a moment to say thanks, and I appreciate you guys. Thanks for helping support the channel, and rest assured that any monetary contributions I receive at this point go directly into purchasing equipment for reviews. With that said, let's jump into the content. In order to turn our OpenTx radio into a flight data recorder, there are 4 things we want to accomplish. Number 1, we need to add telemetry. If we want this to be an automated function, we need something the radio can monitor automatically for us. That's number 1. Number 2, we have to create some logical conditions to monitor that information that's coming from the radio. And we're going to do that with logical switches and sticky switches. Number 3, we have to add special functions that are going to do things like log data, capture your screen on your radio, and tell you, the pilot, that, hey, something's going wrong here. And then number 4, we need to be able to retrieve the data. It doesn't do any good to do all this work and capture it if you can't retrieve it. So that's number 4. We're going to retrieve the log and the screen captures and take a look at what's happening. In my demo folder, I've got a model set up called RCVR Black Box. So we're going to open that up. And the first thing we're going to do is add telemetry. On the simulator, I can't add telemetry directly. So I'm going to show you in the simulator what it looks like when you do it on the radio. So I'm going to just fire up the simulator real quick. And we're going to click on model and long press that. And then we're going to hit page left until, whoops, I already skipped it. We're going to hit page left until we get to the telemetry screen, which is right here. It's the little eye with the radio beams coming off of it. Now we'll use our jog wheel, and you can see on this model, I've already got some sensors in there. And by the way, this is all predicated on the idea that you have a receiver that's got sensors like RSSI. RSSI, if you don't know, stands for Received Signal Strength Indicator. And what that means is it's your receiver telling your transmitter on the ground how strong the signal from the transmitter is on the receiver, and it does that through a telemetry channel. So it's the receiver telling the ground station how things look from the air. Okay, that's what RSSI is. Lots of different FR-Sky radio receivers have this capability. I don't know about Spectrum. I don't know about FlySky, so please don't ask me. What I can tell you is that a lot of the Rssi receivers do have this capability built in. In order to add an RSSI sensor, you need an RSSI capable receiver. Then you want to come in the telemetry screen and highlight Discover New Sensors and hit Go. You have to have the receiver powered on, and when you do that, the radio will automatically pick up all of these telemetry sensors that are available on your particular receiver. RSSI is the one we're looking at tonight. You may decide you want to look at TRSS or total link quality or link quality. I'm not going to get into all that tonight. I've used RSSI. That's what we're going to focus on for this video. RSSI is going to be our trigger. It's critical for that to work. If your radio doesn't discover these sensors automatically, then something's not right. What I've found out is that it will automatically discover sensors if they exist and you hit the button. The other thing that's really important to do over here on the right hand side, make sure the logs check mark is checked, because we want this RSSI data in our log. That's one of the things we're going to be looking at when we start evaluating our black box data. All right, that takes care of step number 1, which is add telemetry. For step number 2, we need to create our logical conditions to evaluate what's going on. So I'll do that by going into logical switches, and I've got a couple to make here. So I'm going to start with logical switch number 3, and I'm going to do A is less than X, and I'm looking for RSSI. So I'm just going to scroll down and find RSSI down here. It hides down at the bottom. There it is. You want to make sure to get the value that doesn't have the negative or positive indicator, just the one that just says RSSI. That's it. This part, it's up to you. I can tell you that in my experience, and when you do the reading, that RSSI values below 42 are considered critical. And when you discover sensors on OpenTx, the radio will automatically populate 42 as the critical level. But for argument's sake, I'm going to use 50 as the floor. And the idea behind 50 is to say, hey, if we see an RSSI level below 50, let's start recording. Let's take a look and turn on all of our recording mechanisms, and we'll go from there. Now the next logical switch I want to make is logical switch number 4. And in this one, I'm going to do A is greater than X. And we're also going to look at RSSI. Right here. And in this case, we're going to set it at 60. The reason I'm using 60 is because I'm going to consider that the safe zone. Anything above 60, I'm really not interested in radio issues. That's the idea. So below 50, I'm interested in what's going on. I'm like on alert, right? Above 60, I'm not on alert anymore. I'm fine. I'm sure the radio is doing just fine if we're above 60 on RSSI. Okay, logical switch number 5. We're going to make a sticky switch. And if you watch my previous videos on logical switches, you know that when we do a sticky switch, that the sticky has parameters V1 and V2. V1 toggles the switch on and V2 toggles the switch off. So guess what we're going to put in the sticky switch? We're going to put logical switch 03 right here. And on this one, we're going to put in logical switch 04. So what this sticky switch says is if logical 3 activates, so if we go below 50, I want logical 5 to illuminate. And it'll stay illuminated until logical 04 is highlighted or illuminates. So when logical switch 04 goes on, which means we've gone above 60 on our RSSI, then logical 4 will illuminate. And if logical 5 is on and logical 4 illuminates, logical 5 will be turned off. And then likewise, if we go back to 50, logical switch 3 illuminates and it'll toggle logical switch 5 back on. That's the way sticky works. V1 turns it on, V2 turns it off. And if it's already off, it can't be turned off again. All right, logical 6, this is a new one that you haven't seen before. I'm going to use a timer function. And in the timer function, I'm just going to leave the defaults here, 1, 1, but I'm going to add an AND switch. In my AND switch, does anybody know what I'm going to use? It's logical switch 5. So what this timer switch does is it means that if logical 5 is on, so if logical 5 is lit, meaning logical 3 is lit, then logical 6 lights, and logical 6 will turn on and off every second. It'll go on for a second, off for a second, on for a second, off for a second. Okay, those are my logical switches. We've got 3 is our, hey, let's go on alert. 4 is everything's okay. 5 is the light switch. It goes on and off depending on whether or not 3 or 4 is active. And 6 sets a timer so that we can do things when number 5 is on. Okay? Okay, now let's take care of our special functions. In special function, I'm going to start with SF number 2, and in SF number 2, I'm going to look at logical switch number 5. And when logical switch number 5 illuminates, I want to start recording what's going on with my radio onto my SD card. So there's an option in here called SD logs. We're going to click that, and I'm going to set an interval for a half a second. Now what this does is it will start recording your stick inputs, including all 4 of your main axes of control. And remember when we did our telemetry, there was that option on the bottom right that said logs. This is why we want that RSSI data included in our SD logs. If logical switch number 5 is turned on, we're going to start recording data. Okay, the next thing I want to do is start grabbing screenshots. And the idea behind screenshots is we want data from the front of your radio. This is the area right here. Now, because I'm in a demo, it doesn't save widgets, unfortunately, but what we're looking for are things like this battery. If you set up your widgets up here, you can get even more information like your RSSI and your battery and your stick positions, your trim positions, your sliders, your pots, your timer. Anything that you use for widgets on this screen is information that'll be captured when you do a screenshot. So that's the idea, is we want to see data from this main screen as part of our black box data collection effort. For SF3, I'm going to use logical switch number 6. And does anyone know why I'm using logical switch number 6? You remember what that one does, right? It's going to blink every second. So every second, number 6 is going to blink if logical 5 is on. So if we're in that warning condition, number 6 is going to blink every second. When number 6 is on, I want to grab a screenshot. Another thing that I want to do when number 5 goes on is I want an audible one-time warning. Okay, so I want to play a value, and that value is going to be RSSI. Right there. And we're going to play it just one time. So we want RSSI to play just once. So if logical 5 goes on, remember that's our hey go on alert, right? If that one goes on, I want to hear the radio tell me, hey, your RSSI is 46 or it's 41 or it's whatever. But I only want to hear it once, because when these things start happening, you already have enough going on. You're trying to recover your plane, perhaps. you're trying to control what's going on. You're maybe lifting your radio up so you get a better signal. The last thing you need is your radio going, hey, your RSI. It reminds me of an Eddie Murphy skit where he's like, hey man, someone stole your car battery. Someone stole your battery. That's what it reminds me of. So we just want to hear it once. And then after that, we're going to go back to logical switch number 6, which is blinking every second for 1 second, on and off, on and off. And we're going to say, hey, if logical switch is going, let's play a sound that lets, not instant trim, sound. And we want that sound to be a quick little warning, and we'll leave it with no repeat. We don't need a repeat on this, because what will happen is 6 is going to toggle on and off, on and off, on and off. The reason we do this is because in my mind, beeps are less nerve-wracking than a voice saying, you're about to die, your plane's about to crash. You know, we don't need that. All right, now that we've got our logical switches set and our special functions set, let's simulate it and see what it looks like. All right, on the right-hand side, I've got my telemetry simulator, which lets me tell the simulator what's happening with my RSSI. And on the left, we've got our logical switches. So one thing you'll notice right off the bat is L4 is lit. And the reason L4 is lit is because our RSI is greater than 60. So here's the condition right here. It says 60, and our RSI value is above 60. Okay, it's 75. So when I lower it, watch what happens when I get below 60. Watch what happens to 4. So I'm going to start lowering it right now. Move this over here so you can see it. I'm going to lower this right now, and we'll see as we get down into 60. Watch what happens on L04. So here's 65, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now notice L4 went off. Now the reason nothing else happened is because, remember, our hey go on alert happens at 50 decibels. 60 is just the upper end, which means we're safe. So let's keep pushing our dB down, and this assumes our RSSI is declining. So I'm going to keep dropping our dB down. We're going down to 53, 52, 51. Now, when I hit 50, what's going to happen is L03 is going to light up. You'll see that happen. And L05, which is a sticky based on an evaluation of L03 and L04, will also light up. The reason it hasn't lit up so far is because it's off. And remember, V2 says if it's on and V2 occurs, then turn it off. But it was already off. So that's why this switch didn't do anything. Okay, so right now L05 is off, and the sticky criteria says, hey, if it's off and V1 occurs, which is L03, which means we drop below 50, then go ahead and activate. So L5 should come on. So once I go below 50, L5 is going to come on. So watch, and then when that happens, other things are going to happen because we did our special functions already, and we'll cover those in just a minute.
49 dB.
Okay. So you see, do you guys see what's happening right now? L06 is our timer, 1 second on, 1 second off, and it depends on whether or not L5 is active. That's the AND switch. That's why we're getting the beep, 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 beep. So hopefully you can hear that. That's L6 going. We should also be getting screenshots right now, and our SD card should also be recording right now. So you notice L5 is on, we're getting a beep, 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 and we got one single audible warning. Okay, now let's go above 50 real quick. Now you say, well, wait, John, you're above 50. Why didn't the beeping stop? Remember, our upper boundary is 60, not 50. 60 is the upper boundary. The idea there is that once we go past 60, then everything is okay. We're in good shape. That's the green light value. Okay, so let's go above 60, and we should see 6 and 5 shut off, and 4 should activate. Our beeper shut off, our 5 is off, and 4 is active. Okay, now that we've triggered our black box data, let's take a look and see what we've got. So there's two places we can do this. Number one is in the simulator itself. You can press F4, or I do hotkeys, but let me show you. You can, over here, there's a temp telemetry simulator. I press F4, so that brings it up. Now we can hit our load button and go into our log directory from our SD card and pull up our log file. And we can play that back. Now I've already looked at this log file, and I know that all the magic happened later in the file. So I'm gonna move it over to later in the file. And here you go. You can see the RSSI values changing based on what we did during the demo. That beeping is because there, see the RSSI just jumped up to 55. Now it's 49. That's all. Those are all the values that we used during the demo. This is basically playing back your telemetry data from the flight, but there's more. So we can close the simulator out, and we can go over to our log viewer, click here on this icon, and then open the log file from our logs folder. And I'm going to load up the last session that we did, and let's take a look at what I was doing with that rudder, because I was kind of banging that rudder around a little bit. So there you go. You can see that by zooming in a little bit, you can see what I was doing with that rudder. I was just kind of going up and down and going a little crazy. Throttle, we could look at throttle and see what was happening with the throttle. You can see that that was moving up and down. If you want to look at a couple at a time, you can control click and add both. So there's rudder and throttle movements. And we could even add our RSSI back in to see what was happening with RSSI at the time. But there you go. This is the black box data, and this will give you an idea of what was happening with your radio at the time. Now, one last bit of data we can take a look at is our screen grabs. So I'm going to open up our screen grab folder, and that will be in here under screenshots, and here's all those screenshots that we took. Let's take a look at a couple of these. So you can see what our trims are, what our battery levels are, what our, if I had a widget up here with RSSI, flight timer, anything that I had set up on the screen, you would see. And you can see by looking in this folder how many of those screenshots that we captured. So, and you can click through them by clicking these little buttons. Oh, there's one. See, look at the trim, that moved. See that? That's a slider. This slider right here moved. That was my S2 pot is what that is. And there's RSSI coming back up again. So you get the idea, right? That by turning that screenshots on, you can get a look at what was going on your screen, because while you're trying to deal with an emergency, you're not going to be looking down at the screen. You're going to be looking at the plane. And that's the idea. Well, now we've got screenshots we can go back and reference. All right, guys, that's all I've got on turning your radio into a black box data recorder. One thing to think about is I don't really suggest you do this on every single plane you have, but if you've got some nice planes, some big planes, maybe some temperamental planes, maybe some planes that you've been having some radio issues with in the past, this might be a great candidate for a plane like that. It'll just give you the ability to research what happens if your plane goes down. I hope you enjoyed the content. If you're not a subscriber, please consider hitting that subscribe button and joining the channel. For the rest of you guys, keep doing what you're doing. You know, keep talking, keep hitting that thumbs up and liking, sharing. You guys know what to do. Yeah, I know you know what to do. And for those of you who are new to the channel and don't spend any time in the comments, feel free to jump in. It'd be nice to get to know some of you folks that are out there watching and lurking a little bit, but not talking very much. That's all I've got for tonight, guys. Take it easy. Right, as you can see, I've got a demo in here called Black Box. All right, as you can see, I've got a radio. As you can see, I've got a model in here called Black Box. I'm going to open that up, and I'm going to go right into logical switches. Now remember, number one, oops, no, we're not going to do that. Okay, you can see that I've got a model set up in here called, okay, come on, John, get it together. And then after that, we're going to go back to logical switch 6, and we're going to have logical switch. And then after that, we're going to go back to logical boy, I can't spit this out. Now we can hit the load button and go into our now we can hit our load button. Let's just beep, beep, beep.